Hello, my name is Karen Lissy, and I'm with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension in Calhoun County. Today, we're going to be talking about fast food with slow cookers. During times of crisis, comfort foods can be a welcome thing to have. That's not to say that we should throw away nutrition and healthy eating out the window. We shouldn't. But when times are hectic and unsure, take a step back and focus on things that we can control, like feeding our family healthy foods that they can enjoy. Slow cookers are a great tool to have because they essentially do the cooking for you while you focus on other things. Imagine putting the ingredients into the slow cooker, leaving for work, and ending the day to a great smelling, mouth-watering dinner. Sounds foolproof, right? Well, it is almost. There are some basic safety rules that need to be followed, and these will be featured in this program. So we're going to learn about how slow cookers work, tips for using a slow cooker, how to test your slow cooker for accuracy, and some recipe ideas. So, what is a slow cooker? A slow cooker is a countertop electrical appliance that cooks food slowly at a low temperature, generally between 170 and 280 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat and steam generated by the slow cooker combined with a long cooking time make it a safe form of home food preparation. Now you need to select a slow cooker that meets your needs. Is the size of the slow cooker large or small enough to meet your needs? Generally speaking, a 2-quart slow cooker is a good size for 1 or 2-person households, while families may benefit from 4 to 6 quarts. You can even get one that holds 12 quarts, although that size is often best for preparing large quantities. I'm thinking it'll hold 2 cans of nacho cheese, no problem. Be sure to keep your slow cooker instructions from the model because they vary. It seems like slow cookers are foolproof. Plug it in, fill it up, and go, right? Almost. According to the USDA Food Safety Inspection Service, there are several food safety rules that need to be followed. But first, we're going to talk about the parts of the slow cooker. Have you ever wondered why the lids are glass or at least see-through? It's so that you don't have to lift the lid and lose valuable heat and then time just by checking to see what the food's looking like. Nowadays, many of them have a removable stoneware insert, which is wonderful because back in the old days, you had to be careful not to get the electrical parts wet when you were cleaning it, and sometimes cleaning it was pretty difficult. And then most of them come with a very simple dial. There are many advantages to using a slow cooker. Slow cookers can save us money in several ways. First, it takes less electricity to use a slow cooker compared to an oven. Second, it doesn't heat up your house like an oven, an added bonus during the summer. That's why I use my slow cooker often during the summer and not my oven, because I don't want to pay to cool my house down because of the oven. Third, slow cookers are a great way to prepare inexpensive lean cuts of meat. The moist heat generated by the cooker makes these cuts of meat more tender compared to other cooking methods. However, a slow cooker is not limited to meats. Other foods, including soups, casseroles, beverages, and cereals, can also be prepared with a slow cooker, in addition to beans. With a little practice, a slow cooker can help prepare more meals at home, which can save money. Now, first thing you need to do is check your slow cooker for accuracy. If the slow cooker in your house has been banished to the back of the cabinet for a few years, it may be a good idea to check to see if it's accurate. The University of Minnesota Extension Service offers the following directions for testing slow cooker accuracy. Fill the cooker 1/2 to 2/3 full of water. The amount you need depends, of course, on the size of the cooker. Turn the cooker onto slow or low and let it heat for 8 hours. Don't lift the lid during this time or it'll make this invalid. Check the water temperature with an accurate food thermometer. Do this quickly since the temperature in the slow cooker drops 10 to 15 degrees once the lid is removed. The temperature of the water should range between 185 degrees and 200 degrees Fahrenheit. If the water temperature is less than 185 degrees, the slow cooker is not safe to use and should be thrown out. If the temperature is over 200, then it is an indication that the food cooked for 8 hours in this slow cooker without any stirring would likely be overdone. I've also burned food in a slow cooker. Now choose your recipes carefully because the right recipe for your slow cooker is very important. Prepare foods that have high moisture content such as chili, soup, stew, or spaghetti sauce. If you're using a commercially prepared frozen slow cooker meal, aka meal in a bag, be sure to follow the instructions on the package. Always begin with a clean cooker. This is food safety here, guys. Clean utensils and a clean work area. Not that anyone would even try to use a dirty slow cooker to cook with. Wash your hands before and during preparation, especially after handling raw meat and poultry. Now, a hint is spray the inside of the crock with non-stick cooking spray before adding any ingredients. This will keep the food from sticking and make cleaning the crock easier. There's also the liners that you could use. Handle your ingredients safely. Keep perishable foods refrigerated until it's preparation time. It's okay to cut up meat and vegetables in advance, but they should be stored in the refrigerator in covered containers separately. Because slow cookers can take several hours to reach a temperature hot enough to kill bacteria, constant refrigeration prior to food preparation helps ensure that the bacteria, which can multiply quickly at room temperatures, don't get a head start during the first few hours of cooking. Always defrost meat or poultry before putting it into a slow cooker. Never put frozen meat or chicken in a slow cooker. If desired, you can cut up a roast or chicken into smaller pieces, but keep in mind that the food will probably cook faster. If you have an older slow cooker, then the newer recipes that call for cooking whole roast or chicken, such as those found in the cookbooks or on the internet, should not be used for food safety reasons. In this case, cut the meat or poultry into smaller pieces so it cooks safely. Or you can consider getting a new crock pot or slow cooker. Okay? Now, we're going to take a bit of a detour because I want to tell you about one thing that you really have to watch for. If you're cooking red kidney beans, soak them like you would any other bean in plenty of water, then drain the liquid. Sometimes people soak them overnight. Replace with fresh water and boil for 10 minutes. Then proceed by cooking them in your slow cooker. The reason is because red kidney beans have a nasty little toxin in them called phytohemagglutinin. Eating raw or undercooked red kidney beans can lead to a severely debilitating illness, often called red kidney bean poisoning. Symptoms can appear within 1 to 3 hours of eating raw or undercooked kidney beans and include extreme nausea and vomiting. Diarrhea may follow within 1 to several hours, along with abdominal pain. Spontaneous recovery is usually within several hours after the symptoms start. Everyone is susceptible to this toxin, regardless of your age or gender, and the severity of the symptoms depend on how much you eat. Eating as few as 4 or 5 soaked raw beans can cause symptoms, and undercooked beans often have more of the toxin than the raw ones. So why are we even talking about this in a publication on slow cookers? According to the FDA, there are several outbreaks linked with slow cookers. In these cases, the slow cookers didn't reach a high enough temperature to destroy the toxin. The Dry Bean Institute, and yes, there is one, you can check it on the internet, says that other types of beans don't have to be soaked if you're cooking them in a slow cooker, but they can take up to 6 hours to cook. For faster cooking, soak them first and use fresh water liquids to cook them. I mean, soak them, drain the soaking water off, and put in fresh water. This helps reduce the gas that some people experience when they eat beans. Now, don't overfill your slow cooker. you're cooking beans especially, watch it, because if you fill them half full with dry beans and then add water, you will most definitely end up with some overflow. Cooking foods with multiple ingredients in a slow cooker is like selling real estate. The key to success is location, location, location. Vegetables cook the slowest, so place them closest to the heat, which is usually at the bottom and on the sides of the slow cooker. Don't skimp or overstuff your slow cooker. As we've said before, 1/2 to 2/3 full. Since vegetables cook slower than meat and poultry, place them on the bottom, add meat, and cover the food with liquids such as broth, water, or sauce. It's important to make sure that the liquid almost covers the ingredients to make sure there's proper heat transfer through the crock. Remember, the liquid is needed to generate the steam that cooks the food. Now, you need to choose the right setting. Slow cookers generally have 2 or more settings. The low setting is recommended for all-day cooking or for preparing the less tender cuts of meat. If desired, you can get a head start on the cooking. Let the slow cooker cook on high for the first hour, then switch to the low. Warm is just for that, keeping foods warm. Keep in mind that the warm setting should not be used to reheat cold foods. Now, no peeking. You have the clear lid to look through, but only lift the lid to stir the food or check for doneness. Each time the lid is raised, the internal temperature drops 10 to 15 degrees, and the cooking process is slowed by 20 to 30 minutes. So, how do we know if food is done? You use a food thermometer. Using a calibrated food thermometer to make sure that the meat and dishes have reached a safe internal temperature is imperative. Poultry should be 165 or above. Ground meat, 160 degrees or above. And whole cuts of meat, beef, pork, lamb, or veal, 145 degrees or above. But once you see that those meats have reached the 145, you need to take them out and let them stand 3 minutes. This standing time is part of the cooking process, and it is important to make sure that the bacteria that can cause foodborne illnesses are killed. Do not skip this step. Now, you need to serve the food immediately or keep it warm. Do not leave cooked foods to cool down in a slow cooker. Eat it right away, or make sure that it's stored in a shallow covered container and refrigerated within 2 hours of cooking. Use a stovetop or a microwave oven for reheating foods and leftovers, and to make sure that you reheat the foods to 165 degrees. If desired, prepared foods can be kept in a slow cooker, but those foods need to be heated first to the 165, then added to a preheated slow cooker. Foods kept in a slow cooker should remain at 140 degrees out of the danger zone or above. What if you've done all this work and then the power goes out? If you're not at home during the entire slow cooking process and the power goes out, throw out the food even if it looks done. Don't take the chance of getting food poisoning. If you are home when the power goes off, finish cooking the ingredients immediately by some other means, on a gas stove, on an outdoor grill, or even at another house where there is power. If this is not possible, then you'll need to throw the food out. If you're home when the power goes off, and if the food was already completely cooked, the food should remain safe for up to 2 hours in the cooker while the power is off. Now, some other tips about successful slow cooking. Processed cheese tends to work better than cheddar cheese. Cheddar cheese often becomes a globby mess. If time permits, brown the pieces of meat before you place them in the cooker. This allows for some of the excess fat to be removed, and it also adds flavor. Cook and drain ground meats before adding them to the slow cooker, again to reduce the fat. If you're cooking beans, be sure the slow cooker is large enough. We discussed that earlier. Now, with seasonings, if they're ground or crushed, add them near the end of the cooking because they may become too mild and not during the long cooking period. But whole seasonings may withstand cooking times and may also have an intensified flavor, so you'll have to experiment with that. You may want to start with just adding half the amount of the seasonings called for. Some more successful tips for being successful. If you're trying to adapt a recipe for the slow cooker, find a slow cooker recipe that is similar to the traditional recipe that you have and use that as a guide. Unless you're preparing soups, sauces, chowders, or chili, use about half the amount of liquid that's listed on a traditional recipe, like that you'd cook in a pot. Also remember that the liquid doesn't boil away as fast as it does in the oven or on the stove top. Now vegetables, make sure the vegetables are cut into pieces that are similar in size and shape. Vegetables that cook quickly, such as peas, you should even add them at the end of the cooking process so they don't become mush. Dairy products, sour cream, milk, or cream, tends to break down during the cooking process and may become lumpy. Add them during the last 30 minutes of cooking. In some cases, you can add condensed soup in place of milk when using the slow cooker for several hours. Rice and pasta. When rice and pasta are cooked for long periods of time, they become starchy and gummy and pasty. To prevent this from happening, cook the rice or the pasta in a separate container on the stove and then add them to the dish after it's done. Seafood, fish and shellfish often cook very fast too and can fall apart during the cooking process. Add them in the last 30 to 60 minutes of cooking. Okay, so you might want to try out a pot roast, pinto beans or other dried beans, soups and stews, pulled pork. They're all good ideas to try. Remember, a slow cooker is a great way to prepare meals for your family. Use the right size slow cooker, follow sound food safety practices, and don't be afraid to try new recipes. Here are some places you might find some recipes that you might enjoy. Thank you for coming to this program. I hope you have a nice day. Karen Lissy with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension in Calhoun County. Have a nice day.